I'm a firm believer in track records. If the last game you made was great, then I'm instantly interested to find out what you're gonna do next. Futuridium EP was one of those great games I couldn't stop talking about back in 2014. In fact, I enjoyed it so much that I ended up naming it the 8th best game of the year. It was gorgeous without being showy, and it pumped a lot of new life into the genre. So, with this in the back of my head, I was eager to dive into Mixed Bag's newest game, Forma.8. Sadly, it's not as good as Futuridium. This is a stylish 2D adventure game inspired by the likes of Metroid and Castlevania. You play a scout drone that unexpectedly crash lands into an alien planet. You're the lone survivor, unable to speak and not sure where to go. This sets up an epic journey where you fly around a massive maze and pick up the memories of your fallen friends. Of course, this isn't exactly clear when you crash on the planet. In fact, the whole thing is disorienting in a way I found both baffling and refreshing. This is an adventure without lengthy conversations and help bubbles. You just explore the surroundings and attempt to dig deeper into the structure. And explore I did, because the world they've created is both fascinating and full of surprises. While most video game heroes like to run and jump, our little drone is a small fella that flies around the screen without worrying about crashing into things. He's inexperienced, which gives him a loose and floaty feel, almost like we're underwater. The goal is to find your friends and collect their powers, allowing you to explore new sections of the map and get into fights with the many massive boss characters. If you've played a Metroid or Castlevania game in the last 2 decades, then you'll know exactly what to expect from this quirky variation. It all starts with the drone picking up an energy blast, which can help open up doors and protect the little guy from the planet's many bad guys. We'll also pick up bombs, which you can drop off at any time or shoot forward by combining it with the energy blast. You'll also find a quick dash move and a fun ability that warps you a short distance. All of these things can be used to not only find hidden areas, but solve a bunch of physics-based puzzles. This is a formula that's almost always fun, and Forma.8 is certainly no exception. A lot of this comes from just figuring out what you're supposed to be doing, which isn't nearly as frustrating as it sounds. The game may not hold your hand, but I never hit a point where I got stuck or didn't know what to do. Everything is intuitive without being spelled out, and that only made my journey more satisfying. I think my favorite example of this comes from the boss fights. These battles seem straightforward at first, but they're trickier than they seem. You can't just lob bombs at them, you have to combine your abilities to create combo attacks. But this isn't obvious at first, and I spent a lot of time not knowing my attacks weren't doing any good. There's a trick to each boss, and I like that they aren't just mindless fodder. But as clever as some of these fights are, I found that a lot of Forma.8 left me cold. I like the minimalist graphics, the leisurely pace, and the mysterious world. But even with all that going for it, I kept trying to put my finger on why I wasn't connecting with the little drone. I think the problem is that this Metroidvania formula is so familiar by now that it just doesn't have the same impact it once had. The game does a good job of looking and feeling different from most games in the genre, but it's not enough to feel fresh. It doesn't help that I kinda hated the way the drone controls. I know it's done on purpose, but the floaty gameplay occasionally gets in the way. It's a little too easy to bounce around the screen when all you're trying to do is fight enemies, and lining up shots can be a real pain. It never felt like I was in complete control, which may actually have been the point. Either way, the loose control made some of the more intense fights needlessly challenging. I also wish there was more to find in Forma.8. Beyond the power-ups, there are only a couple of collectibles to locate. The problem is that it's not clear what these items do, if anything. One type of item will extend your life bar, but I was never fully sure what the other one did. Usually, these types of games are teeming with things to find, so without that, the map ended up feeling empty. It didn't give me a lot of incentive to search every inch of the world, so I mostly just stuck to the story path. Forma.8 is a game I liked, but didn't love. There was clearly a lot of time and love put into this adventure, and I was impressed with the length and challenge. I can see it becoming a cult classic, especially with people who like to fill in the stories for themselves. Forma.8 may not have grabbed me like Futuridium EP, but you better believe I'm excited to see what Mixed Bag has in store for us next. Hey, thanks for watching our review. This has been a busy week, what with reviews of Mall Empire, Dystoria, and now Forma.8. We also took a look at 3 old-school run-and-gun shooters in a brand new series, as well as previewed a 2D platformer called Slime Son. We're going to be back next week with even more reviews and features, but it's Friday, and I don't even want to think about that right now. I need some rest. But before I get too comfortable, I recommend you click the subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.